Hi guys, so the former chief negotiator for the European Union, Michel Barnier, was interviewed for BBC Newsnight about the Northern Ireland Protocol. In it, he had some very interesting comments to make about Boris Johnson. Now, over the last number of months, Lord Frost, the Brexit minister, has mentioned how the Northern Ireland Protocol is not working. Frost negotiated, signed and promoted the withdrawal agreement, which contains the protocol, also known as the oven-ready deal. And he was so great at this job that he was considered for peership and hired to do the negotiations for the trade deal between the EU and the UK. Frost, months into Brexit, wanted this protocol renegotiated. However, he has never actually provided any examples of how it isn't working. His government has also threatened to invoke Article 16 of the protocol. But Michel Barnier here describes the British government as serious.
I worked every day and sometimes every night during these 4 years, thinking about this point and this clear danger for the peace in Ireland, in case of any trouble for the Good Friday Belfast Agreement. And we take a lot of time to work with the British government, with Theresa May, one time, two times, three times. We found a solution with Theresa May, and finally we found an agreement with Boris Johnson, not against him, not without him, but with him. And once again, every word, every sentence was negotiated with.
They understood exactly what the protocol meant.
Yes.
You're sure about that?
They are serious people. So there is no surprise. There was no.
Notice he says they were serious people, and he doesn't smile. He goes on to say that Boris Johnson was a serious Prime Minister, and he doesn't smile, which is extremely telling.
Surprise.
But you recognise that it's not working. The protocol is not working.
We need to respect the signature.
But the
way to...
It's the end of power sharing. If that's not going to create peace, does the EU not have to be more flexible?
As the Vice President of the Commission, Maroš Šefčovič, said several times, including a few days ago, we are ready to find practical and operational solutions in the framework of the protocol, not for renegotiating the protocol. Because this protocol has been negotiated by serious people on both sides, very serious people, and Mr. Boris Johnson is a serious Prime Minister, so we negotiate with his team.
I find it very interesting that he says that Boris Johnson is a serious Prime Minister. Now, there are two ways of interpreting this. Either he's pulling our legs because he's saying, like, Boris Johnson is not a serious Prime Minister, or he's telling us that there is another side to Boris Johnson. There is another side to the Brexiteers. There is another side to Boris Johnson's administration. Boris Johnson likes to play the fool, but Boris Johnson is no fool. Boris Johnson tries to play the clown, but he's a very serious politician. He's ruthless. And we've seen this in the past. Boris Johnson has surrounded himself with yes men and women, people who will not challenge him. There are a few exceptions, maybe the Rishi Sunak, but generally the people surrounding Boris Johnson are fools, are easy to manipulate. Boris Johnson, and I've said this on numerous occasions, Boris Johnson pretends to be a fool, but he is no fool. These gaffes play into the persona of the buffoon. Boris Johnson is a serious politician. He knows how to manipulate people, and he's very good at it.
With himself, he knew exactly what he signed.
Don't you think the protocol will just be dropped eventually, quietly dropped?
It cannot be possible to drop this protocol because it's the only way to find a solution for all the problems created by the Brexit. What creates problem in Ireland is Brexit, nothing else. No?
It's a little bit disappointing. I understand that the BBC tried to be impartial here. You know, recently they've been attacking Brexit in a sense. They've been calling out Brexit, saying these delays at the ports or the fuel shortages or the empty supermarket shelves, are they related to Brexit? Yes. And they mentioned the B word. And, kudos to them for doing that. But they also tend to play the other side and try to defend Brexit at the same but challenge the European Union. Look, you can challenge the European Union on European affairs. You can call them out if you think they're doing something wrong. And I welcome that. If the European Union are making mistakes or doing, dealing in bad policy, call it out. But when it comes to the protocol, this was something signed by both parties. Boris Johnson agreed to it. Lord Frost negotiated it. Lord Frost returned and said this is a great deal. Promoted it. Allowed Boris Johnson to use it as his manifesto, basically. You can't go back now and say that it wasn't right, that it's not working. If it's not working, it's because somebody's not implementing it. There isn't a problem, and the reason I say that is because Lord Frost and Boris Johnson and the Brexiteers within Boris Johnson's government have not given one example of how the protocol is not working. They hint to things. They say, yes, it's not working and it needs to be refined and it needs to be renegotiated and it's undermining trade, but they don't actually give any specific examples. The European Union have given specific examples of how the UK is not implementing the protocol. And I've covered this before. Permanent structures are not in place. Data sharing is not taking place. But the UK side have yet to give one concrete example, and that's extremely telling. They haven't given one concrete example of how the protocol is not allowing trade, is affecting trade, is undermining the relationship between Northern Ireland and the rest of the UK, undermining sovereignty. No examples. Surely you would think if the protocol needed to be renegotiated, if the protocol wasn't working, if Article 16 needed to be invoked, and I've covered this before, Brexiteers in Northern Ireland and Brexiteers in Great Britain will talk about how Article 16 needs to be invoked. The criteria has been met. But they can't actually explain what this criteria is. They can't give examples. Surely you would be able to give examples and say, see, the threshold has been met. Now we invoke this aspect of Article 16. It's either a complete misunderstanding of what Article 16 represents, or they're pretending not to understand what Article 16 represents. But once again, back to the point here in the video where he calls Boris Johnson a serious politician, and he doesn't smile. He calls the British politician, the negotiators, serious people, and he doesn't smile. He's not joking around. He's telling us something here. He's telling us that you may think Boris Johnson is a buffoon, but in reality he's not. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think about all of this. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot. I want to say a big thank you to all of my patrons. You ensure that this channel continues to exist. I'm eternally grateful for all of your support. If you join Patreon, you will receive instant access to our Discord server, where we have both audio and video chats. You can chat with me and other patrons, where we discuss important and non-important issues. Becoming a patron per month costs about the same as a large coffee, so why not check it out?